Welcome to another video from ExplainingComputers.com. This time it's very exciting indeed because this channel has just passed 1 million subscribers. And so here I am with Mr. Scissors and Stanley the Knife, and to celebrate we're going to do something that lots of you have been asking me to do for some time now, which is an updated desk and studio tour. So we can look at all the things I use to create Explaining Computers episodes. Although before that, I do want to thank everybody who's subscribed and who remains subscribed and who has made the million happen. It's been a very long adventure since the first Explaining Computers episode uploaded on the 30th of March 2008. And here we now are with a community of over 1 million members. And so thanks again for making this happen. And now let's get on with the studio and desk tour. Greetings! Here I am at my desk. And I did think of tidying up a bit before I showed you this, but I thought no, show them things warts and all as they normally are. And talking about how things normally are, I last did a desk tour back in July 2016, over 7 years ago. And at the time the desk looked like this, and now it looks like this. As you can see, it hasn't changed very much. And I make no apology for that. This is my point of stability. It's a creative space. I like to keep the creative space itself nice and consistent. And of course what happens here changes all the while. I'm working on different projects, different films every single week. This said, there has been one big change since I last showed you the desk, and that's with the electrical power system. I used to have double sockets on the wall. I've now got a nicer conduit down the back. Here's a shot of the conduit before it was going in. This has been a great success. I've got now more flexibility with sockets and electrical stuff. So that's one change that's been made, and that's worked very well indeed. Anyway, let's move on to computers. They're obviously a big part of this. I use lots of different computers in this location. For a start, I use various mobile devices. Here is my lovely Samsung 12-inch tablet. It keeps going. It won't go on forever, but it's going right now. I use my laptop. Here's my laptop. Is it alive? Come on, laptop, wake up. Here's a laptop. And this is running Windows 10 for its sins. Could it run Windows 11? It could, but not officially, but unofficially. At the moment, it's running Windows 10. I don't know what it'll run by next year. It might not survive till next year. It's been going very well. I've had such good value from this Zenbook laptop, but it won't last forever. The battery in particular is not very happy anymore. In terms of computers actually at the desk, desktop PCs, there are 3 on my desk, as they were many years ago. The first one is here. This system used to be an i3 4330T, something like that, but very recently on my channel I upgraded it to have an N100 motherboard, so it's now silent. Can you hear it? Neither can I. It's an absolutely silent PC. I love this PC, great for my tinnitus, but it's just nice anyway. And this runs Linux Mint. That's the operating system I boot every morning. It also runs Windows XP as a virtual machine offline, so I can run old versions of Office, the nice versions before they messed around with putting the ribbon and things in. So basically, every day I'll be running at least some of the time Linux Mint on this system, and most days actually I do occasionally sort of hit now and then Windows XP. I just like doing odd little things in Windows XP because I can. In terms of other computers, there is down here a very large computer. This is a tower. It's a Supermicro case from a good 20 years ago. Let's give you a much wider shot of it. There we go. And I just like this computer, and it's had lots of different innards over the years, and currently it's an i7-6700T with 32 gigabytes of a DDR4 memory. It's got a Samsung Pro 1 terabyte SSD as the boot drive. It has got a 6 terabyte Western Digital Black hard drive for video files, and it's also got at the top here this bay which takes caddies. If I just take this out, they come out like that, and there we are. I use this for various backups, but most of the time I have a cartridge in like that, which contains currently a 1 terabyte Samsung Evo drive, and this is used as a sort of scratch drive, initial backup. I never edit a file before I've got at least 2 or 3 copies of it. That is shooting media. It'll be copied typically as a video file to the hard drive and then to this drive, and then I'll start working on files so I never lose data. And the graphics card in this system is a GT 1030, 2GB, passively cooled, perfectly sufficient for my needs. And you've probably noticed a few other bits and pieces. There is a floppy drive here. It's no longer actually connected to anything. I just like keeping it there. It'd be a pain to get rid of it, to be honest, in terms of moving it out. There are some displays here which were attached to sensors years ago. Those aren't in use either. And if you're thinking about the operating system, this still runs Windows 7. I just like running Windows 7, not least because I can turn off ClearType and have absolutely sharp fonts on the screen. I won't get into that massive debate here about font control in Windows 8 and beyond, but I like running Windows 7. I run it offline. I like doing that for video editing. This is my video editing system. Once I've turned this thing on, I am offline. I'm not going to be interrupted by anything. And the software running in Windows 7 is the Adobe Creative Suite, the last version before Adobe forced you to subscribe to their software and accept updates whether you wanted them or not. And so I'm running and editing in Premiere Pro, Adobe After Effects for compositing. I'm using Photoshop a great deal. I'm using Adobe Audition for audio, sometimes using Adobe Illustrator, although I also use Inkscape, increasingly in fact for doing that type of work. I just happen to like working in Inkscape. And I've also got on this machine a version of DaVinci Resolve, and I also run Lightwave for doing all of my 3D animation. Talking of Lightwave, the final system at the desk is this one, which is my render box. This exists purely to render Lightwave animation. If I've got lots of rendering to do, I put some of it onto this system. This is again a 6700T i7 system. It's in a beautiful case. I love the way it opens up like this and closes back like that. It's supposed to be a media center PC, I think, this case, but I'm using it for this purpose. And in fact, there are 2 videos on my channel about when I built this PC. Back on top of the desk, on my desktop no less, we have a couple of monitors, as you can see. This one in the corner is an LCD. People sometimes see this in videos and go, that's a CRT. It isn't. It's an LCD panel, 15-inch 4.3, 1024, 768 monitor. That was my main monitor many, many years ago. It's now just used for the render box system below the desk. It just sits here in the corner with its own screen and keyboard for the rendering system. And then my main monitor is this one. This always confuses people. This is a 5.4 monitor, 1280 by 1024. I prefer this for writing. Now, admittedly, I don't do as much writing these days, so maybe I should move this to a 16:9 monitor. But I would point out some of us have problems with very large monitors in terms of visual field and what it does to the brain. And so I actually find it's much more comfortable to work on a bit of a smaller monitor. So at the moment, I'm sticking with this monitor, and it works very nicely on the systems. And then down here, we've got a keyboard. This is a small keyboard. I like this keyboard. Low travel, good for RSI, or more accurately, avoiding the same. And yes, I must buy myself a new gel wrist rest at some point. To switch between computers, I use this switch box, nice old-fashioned, very reliable technology. And for pointer control, my mouse of choice is this one, a 3M ergonomic mouse. This is a fixed center column that your hand wraps around so your fingers are at rest, and you click by rocking up and down with the thumb. And this, as you can see, works on a small mouse mat, and that is because I sometimes take this off there, take off the mouse mat like that, and I've got under here a small Wacom tablet. They sadly don't make this size anymore, but I use this a great deal. I like the fact you can use the tablet but not have to move too much around to use it. Finally, there's my Kyocera laser printer, which has given me many years of great service. Various backup drives. I know these are not my only backup drives, there are others elsewhere, as I've discussed in other videos. And I've also got these great creative speakers where I have endless fun every now and then removing and then replacing the front panels. And so there we are. This is a setup at my desk. And you might be a bit surprised. You might think, a channel about computers, you should be using far more powerful computers and more recent software to do the work. But my response to that, and I'm in no way saying anyone else should do anything like what I do, you probably shouldn't do what I do, but my focus here is on the work. I am a creative individual where when I'm sitting here, my focus is on either writing something or editing something. It's on what's being made, not on the technology that actually allows it to be made. And so providing what's here works, I can edit in real time, everything runs very reliably, I let sleeping dogs lie. Eventually systems here will change, and it's probably going to happen sooner rather than later, but at the moment things are okay. And linked to okay, one of the things I've always focused on a great deal on this channel is pipeline, particularly since I've gone weekly. Pipeline referring to the process of going all the way from capturing footage from a computer or from a camera all the way through towards selection and editing and final output. And everything on this channel is captured or shot as a ProRes file. It's captured, as you'll see in the next part of the video, on a ProRes recorder. And that has two benefits. One benefit is ProRes, which is a professional video format, stores every frame individually. And so it's much easier to edit. It puts a much lower strain on a computer than using the consumer format, which typically store one frame as a keyframe and then they store changes, and then it's much more difficult for a computer to edit that. So I don't need as much computing power here to actually get on with editing videos because I work in ProRes. And secondly, because everything is captured to a ProRes recorder, every single shot that arrives here for editing is a final shot, because I've actually gone through everything on a large size screen, checked it all out long before I hit editing. I'm not shooting things on a camera with a tiny little screen and then bringing them in here and having to make selections. And that again puts a lot less pressure on the actual equipment. So my focus in terms of hardware, in terms of video making, is very much at the start of the pipeline, not the end of the pipeline. And yet I think a lot of YouTubers, certainly from the videos you see, they focus on having a very powerful computer, but shooting in, shall we say, a less optimal way, so that computer has to do more work. Anyway, that's my view. I might be right, I might be wrong, I don't know, but I'm just telling you what I do, and I think we'll now move on to the next part of the video. Right. Here I am in my shooting space, in my studio, currently shooting the kind of shot that opens and closes an Explaining Computers video. And as I'm sure as you're aware, I'm standing in front of a green screen, and if we cut to a wider shot like this, I can show you what is going on. For a start, in front of me we do have an HDMI recorder recording the master shot for this sequence. I'll show you this a bit more in a second. And then behind me we have some lights. These are LED panels just behind me, one there and also one over here to illuminate the green screen, to make it nice and evenly lit, not having shadows from me. And then down here, I've got a camera. This is my B cam. This is my Canon XA40. I use this for lots of little extra shots, location shots, a nice little camcorder. And in fact, it's currently running. So if I take it and point it down here like this and do that, you can see, if I just come out a little bit, you can see the HDMI recorder recording the master shot for this particular sequence. And what we have going on here is an HDMI input. There's also SDI inputs on this device. There's also a mini XLR input. If I look down like this, you can see here's a mic pack with an XLR output going up to the XLR input on this device. And specifically, this is a Blackmagic Design Video Assist 4K, although there's lots of different devices available, including their new 3G and 12G devices that do a similar kind of thing. I take this camera and I look down there. You can see my ACAM. That is my Sony NX5R. That's been the main camera on this channel for a very long time now. It's a great camcorder. It's got a 20 times optical zoom lens, great audio, everything controlled by switches and buttons on the camera rather than going into menus. I really like using that camera. And in fact, this camera, the Canon XA40, is also good in that respect. Great onboard audio, not as many buttons, but it's still lots of things work on buttons. And it also got actually the 20 times optical zoom. And that 20 times optical zoom lens on both of the cameras is really important for me because I do lots of very tight close-up shots on this channel. I'm sure you're aware of that. So I need to have camcorders with that sort of range of zoom lens to do those kind of shots. If I take the camera and look up this way, you can see a light. Let's pull out from that. There is a light. There is one. There is another light. These lights are ARRI 650 pluses, very traditional tungsten lights. I do like lighting with traditional tungsten lighting. I do use LED lights. I've shown you that already, haven't I? I've got LED light over here. But when you want a lot of light, and I want to bounce light off the ceiling as I do with the lights I've just been showing you, they have to be very powerful, and getting LED lights which are powerful enough to use in that way and which don't have a fan in that makes enormous noise is tricky, not least they're very, very expensive. So that's why I stick to using tungsten lights. Oh, and there's another tungsten light. I just realised that over here. If I just point the camera over there and have a little look, there's another little ARRI tungsten light. That's an ARRI 150 Junior without the barn doors on the front right now. It's another light I use on this channel. Moving on to a subject I'm very frequently asked about, let's see how I record from a computer. And to demonstrate this, I've got a computer connected up to this monitor. This is a B-Tronics monitor, 13.3 inches as far as I remember. Very, very nice monitor. I use this for both computer use and also for monitoring output from a camera. And I've got down here obviously a keyboard and another 3M ergonomic mouse. And this is connected to the i5 PC I use for lots of videos on this channel, which is a PC I put together on the channel, I think it was last year, might have been the year before now, but it was, I think it started the year before and then it evolved a bit. It's a nice system and it's got lots of different operating systems on it, including, as we can see here, Linux Mint. And the way things are configured, the output from the computer goes into a splitter. That's the red HDMI cable going in at the front. And then out the back of the splitter, one of the outputs goes to the monitor and the other goes to this, an ATEM Mini video mixer. And this is a very handy little device. It basically takes HDMI inputs and has an HDMI output, which goes here to the Blackmagic Design Video Sys 4K. This is not the only HDMI recorder I use, by the way. I have several others. I think I've got 5 functional HDMI recorders now. One is this old Atomos Ninja. Very nice device because this works to record to SSDs, which go in like that. There we go. But anyway, let's stick with what we were doing, which is recording from a computer. This mixer does allow us to mix. I've got, for example, here the camera across the room. You can see that shot there. I've actually got the output from the camera recording this sequence, which is very confusing, so we'll go back to the output from the computer. But the really useful thing for me using this device is not being able to do the mixing tricks, it's being able to do a frame rate conversion, because the output from the computer goes in here and it gets converted to the same frame rate regardless of any change that happens on the computer. And often when a computer is booting up, you get different frame rates at different points in time. That would throw off a normal recorder. But by going to a mixer, you get round those issues. And it even means I can record a computer when it's off. And to prove that, let's just close the computer down. Let's do a shutdown here of Linux Mint like that, and it'll get on shutting down. And the recording is going on perfectly happily as the computer shuts down. So the computer's now not running. And so in a video I could go, I've wired this computer up, let's boot it up. And I'll now press the button and the computer's coming up. I do like this i5 PC. It's a great piece of equipment because it's very, very quiet. You might remember I did some videos on my channel last year about making it very, very quiet. They weren't very popular videos, but they were technically very nice videos, all about making a PC pretty much silent. And as we can see, there we are, the PC is booting up. I've shown how I can use the ATEM Mini via a splitter coming out to the computer to record a computer even when you shut it down. Finally, let's just take note of some of the other bits of equipment I use making videos on this channel, and they include the Ryzen PC I built, I think it was last year on my channel, it must have been 2023, that's used in making some videos. And I also use various cables, I use a lot of grip, I favour Manfrotto for lighting stands and tripods, and I also use various bits of audio equipment. And that includes things like this Tascam audio recorder. I've had various Tascam recorders over the years. This is the most recent. I use tight-clip microphones, you know about that. This is the ones I use. This is my spare. This is such an important piece of equipment that the one I'm using right now has got a spare, which is here. I sometimes it's used two at the same time. And this is an Audio-Technica AT803 tight-clip microphone, and it's got a powering pack, which is technically the AT8531. And the most recent piece of equipment I purchased for audio are these things here from Sennheiser. These are great bits of equipment. This allows you to send an XLR audio signal wirelessly. If I just turn them on, you might be able to see they'll flick, little lights will flick. There they are, they're flashing, powering themselves up. They're rechargeable devices. They've got male and female XLR connectors on the ends. So you can plug these in, for example, to this power pack here for the microphone is XLR. You could just plug that in the end and, oh look, this has become a wireless unit. So I found these very useful bits of equipment. And if you want to know even more about how I make videos on this channel, I'd point out my 300th video was called Behind the Scenes, and that goes in a bit more detail into my production process and talks in more depth about my cameras and other production hardware. In January 2017, I unboxed this, the Explaining Computers silver play button. And I now look forward to unboxing a gold play button, which I'll do in a special extra video as soon as it arrives. But now that's it for another video. Thanks for subscribing, all 1 million of you, and I hope to talk to you again very soon.